Every now and then, I get met with gasps and outraged expressions when I admit that I have never seen a particular movie deemed a classic. "But you're the movie buff," my friends and family exclaim. "How have you never seen that movie?" These periodic reminders of what a terrible cinephile I am jolt me into action, and I skulk away in shame to see what I have been missing out on. This was recently the case with American Psycho. When my dear colleague and fellow horror fanatic heard I had never checked out this modern classic, she insisted I finally check it out and review it. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it, I guess. So down I sat, with my TV backlight set to red for maximum effect, and took in the stylish, hilarious, and surprising glory that is American Psycho. And perhaps what I love about it the most is that it is a thinker. It's not one of those cut-and-dry things that wraps the narrative up in a neat little bow for you. It demands that you look deeper and really consider what you are seeing. Whose perspective is trustworthy? Is what I'm seeing actually happening in the real world of the movie? What is it trying to say to me through the rich and deeply subjective language of cinema? Not only did I enjoy American Psycho, but I will definitely need to rewatch it, enjoy it all over again, and think even harder. American Psycho is adapted from the controversial novel by Bret Easton Ellis, with a hard-won writing and directorial effort from Mary Harron, who was fired from the movie and replaced with Oliver Stone, before being brought back on with her first choice for the lead role, Christian Bale. Bale plays Patrick Bateman, a city slicker investment banker who is living the dream 80s New York lifestyle that the media tells us is aspirational but actually looks ugly, boring, and painfully pretentious. He and his yuppie co-workers endure each other's company at one fancy restaurant after another, only ever seeming to have surface-level conversations about the big accounts and which fancy restaurant to go to next. These aren't friends, they're accomplices in a lavish facade. Patrick's lifestyle demands that his entire existence be this facade. So, it seems only natural that he is hiding, deep down, more sinister traits beneath his sharply tailored suits and perfectly maintained skin. He narrates to the audience his inner feelings of nothingness, and how he knows that beneath the glossy exterior, there is a black hole void of emotion. Greed and disgust are the only two characteristics he can think to apply to himself, and he feels that there is some force approaching his life that will cause his mask to slip, and for his true self to be exposed. This arrives in the form of Paul Allen, Jared Leto, a rival co-worker whose suits are always a little sharper and, to the absolute horror of Patrick, his business cards a little snappier. When the guys take turns whipping out their business cards to show off, you see the red mist descend over Bateman's eyes when he sees Allen's, impeccably printed, complete with a watermark. I mean, the goddamn gall of the guy. There's obviously no logical response to this other than for Bateman to kill him. Allen's murder sets the dominoes falling, and Bateman begins to attack people. First a homeless man and his dog. If you were wondering just how psychotic our protagonist was, look no further than him stomping a poor street dog to death, then sex workers. He gradually becomes more unhinged, to the point where he is running stark naked around his apartment building, covered in blood and wielding a chainsaw. His murderous rampage eventually comes to a head when he confesses his many crimes to his lawyer over the phone and has a moment of out-loud realization that he is a terrible person and a danger to others. The many layers of pretense are peeled away, leaving a hollow man in the place of someone who, on the outside, seems to have it all. Just when you think you've established that Bateman is the titular American Psycho, and saunters Willem Dafoe to make you question that distinction. With his wide eyes, manic grin, and over-the-top energy, he enters the picture as a lawman investigating Allen's disappearance, and there is a wonderful scene in which he and Bateman face off. Bateman's mask is well and truly slipping by this point, and he is not doing a great job of coming across as someone who totally wouldn't murder his colleague. Dafoe plays along, never quite allowing Bateman to believe that this is just a routine call with no implication of suspicion. His colleagues and other associates don't come across much better. American Psycho is a biting satire about the pomposity of the 1980s Wall Street high life. Every time a man swings open his card holder, it is accompanied by a metallic swish akin to a knife being unsheathed. These are their weapons. Much attention is drawn to the lavish minutiae of this lifestyle. Suits, meals, wines, and watches are all status symbols that never seem to bring any sense of pride or fulfillment to their owners. Everybody in this world is chasing approval from peers who are too wrapped up in their own identity crises to validate anyone else's. Perhaps the most telling moment before Bateman's big confession is when, much to his irritation, he momentarily slips off his headphones to tell his girlfriend, "I just want to fit in." The dark comedy emerges from the pettiness and hypocrisy of it all. When an obscenely rich and handsome young man gets so infuriated by a business card, what can you possibly do but laugh at him? In a world where everything seems so high stakes, the meaninglessness of it all is one big joke. The one real presence in Bateman's life is music. You can't even really call it his joy, or his vice, because to him, music is more of an intellectual puzzle, one that the listener shouldn't just kick back and enjoy the sounds of, but ponder, question, and understand the context and background of. He frequently plays various albums of the era, from Huey Lewis to Phil Collins, while lecturing people about the deeper meaning of it all. For a man who is without expression, music is his one little window into humanity. It reminds the viewer of Alex's fixation with lovely Ludwig van and A Clockwork Orange, and that a person completely lacking emotion can still be so moved by something as inherently emotional as music. The movie was Christian Bale's real breakout performance as a leading man, and he threw himself right into it. As someone who still enjoys Gillian Armstrong's charming take on Little Women, it is remarkable to see Bale make the leap from lovable Simp Laurie to utterly despicable Bateman in just a few short years. Talk about range. It's a physically grueling role, one that requires much control to portray a man who has little. The finest details, from the way he purses his lips to how he propels fury with just his eyes, come together to form a believable character in an unbelievable world. Bale can say 1,000 words with a simple gesture, and never once holds himself back from what could be embarrassing or uncomfortable to a less skilled or confident actor. He puts himself up there with the likes of Jack Nicholson and Anthony Hopkins, whose most powerful weapon when playing madmen is their unpredictability. Is he going to explain the emotional core of one of Beethoven's symphonies to you, or hack you to pieces? Or both? This precarious balance of charm and danger is what makes him so captivating, and what keeps the movie from falling into pure comedy in its more outlandish moments. Mary Harron directs the piece with a sharp and very particular view to framing it all as quite ludicrous. It's not unlike Fight Club or The Wolf of Wall Street, in that it presents a very damaging form of masculinity and, through clever writing and direction, urges the viewer to see it as dysfunctional, delusional, and really quite pathetic. The problem is that not every viewer is so good at reading between the lines, and some come out of such movies with an effective manual on how to live as a real man. According to Roger Ebert's review of the movie, Harron considered it a feminist piece, a condemnation of a certain vein of masculinity that causes harm not only to the wider world but to those who embody it. No matter how nice his watch, how finely embossed his business card, how blindingly white his bedsheets and underwear, Bateman lacks meaningful relationships and contributes nothing to the world except a dollar amount. And the true psychosis is expecting to find fulfillment in a life like that. American Psycho is streaming on Netflix in the U.S.